James stared at his phone in disbelief. Emily Carson. His ex-wife's sister's name illuminated the screen, a connection he'd assumed severed with the divorce papers 2 months ago. The phone continued its persistent vibration against his palm while his mind raced. In 60 days, Claire's family had maintained radio silence, no sympathetic texts, no awkward condolences. Nothing but the echo of the judge's ruling that had reduced his time with his children to every other weekend. Why now? Why Emily? His thumb hovered over the screen. Part of him wanted to let it go to voicemail, to preserve the fragile routine he'd constructed from the ruins of his married life. But something in him, intuition perhaps, or just the lingering habit of hope, made him swipe to answer. Emily? His voice revealed more surprise than he intended. James, we need to talk, she said, her tone uncharacteristically serious. There are things you should know. Thank you for approving the opening hook. I'll now create James closed the front door as the tail lights of Claire's SUV disappeared down the street. Another Sunday evening, another goodbye that came too soon. The house fell silent around him, amplifying the hollow spaces where his family used to be. He moved through the living room, his footsteps echoing against hardwood that once absorbed the patter of children running. The bookshelf stood half empty, Claire's novels and decorative items now vacant spaces between his remaining books. He straightened a framed photo, the 4 of them at Lake Michigan last summer, all smiles and sunburns, the kids building sandcastles while he and Claire posed behind them. 1 more year, she had whispered that day, her lips close to his ear. Things will be better. Better? The word tasted bitter now. Within 3 months of that beach trip, she'd asked for a divorce. 2 months after the papers were signed, he still couldn't fathom how they'd arrived here. Weekend dad, emptied home, shattered plans. James ran his fingers along the wall, where rectangular shadows marked missing family portraits. He'd left them for Claire without argument. It seemed easier that way, less confrontational. He'd been choosing easier for too long, perhaps. In the kitchen, he washed 2 small cereal bowls and placed them in the drying rack. Lily's pink one with unicorns, Max's blue with dinosaurs. Their weekend dishes were always the hardest to clean, as if washing away their presence. "Daddy, why can't we stay longer?" Max had asked earlier, clinging to his leg at departure time. "Because of the papers, buddy," he'd explained, repeating the simplest truth. "The papers say Daddy gets weekends." Paper lives, he thought now. Their existence reduced to court documents, visitation schedules, and divorce decrees, all outlining what was missing, never what remained. James settled at his desk, absently opening his laptop. His browser history revealed his recurring weakness: searches for signs of infidelity and how to know if your spouse is cheating. He'd deleted these searches repeatedly during the marriage, ashamed of his suspicions. The calendar on his wall still showed Claire's handwriting, the mysterious business dinners that multiplied in their last year together. July 14th caught his eye, circled in red. Chicago overnight, client presentation. He remembered calling her hotel that night when she didn't answer her cell. "I'm sorry, we have no guest by that name," the receptionist had told him. Later, Claire had explained it away. The reservation was under the company name, James. Stop being so paranoid. And he had stopped, or at least stopped voicing his concerns. The evidence was always just out of reach, explanations always plausible enough. Her late nights had reasonable justifications. The strange text messages he glimpsed were misunderstandings. The credit card charges at hotels he'd never visited were work expenses. Once, he'd found a receipt for 2 glasses of wine at a restaurant when she'd claimed to be dining alone. "I ordered one, then didn't like it, so I got another," she'd said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Are you really keeping tabs on me now?" That was how it always ended, with him apologizing, questioning his own perceptions. Was he paranoid, controlling, unreasonable? Claire had convinced him he might be all 3. Yet the questions lingered, suspended in the empty spaces of his home like dust motes catching the evening light. The vibration of his phone startled him. James glanced at the screen and felt a jolt of surprise. Emily Carson, Claire's younger sister. They'd always gotten along well at family gatherings, but since the divorce, she'd vanished along with the rest of Claire's family. He hesitated, then answered. "Emily?" "James." Her voice sounded tense, controlled. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "No, just surprised. The kids are already back with Claire if you're—" "I'm not calling about the kids." She paused. "I need to talk to you about Claire." James's grip tightened on the phone. "We're divorced, Emily. There's not much to discuss." "There is." Her voice dropped lower. "Things you should know. Things I should have told you sooner." A strange sensation swept through him, part dread, part vindication. What kind of things? Not over the phone. Emily's voice had an edge he'd never heard before. "Can we meet tomorrow? The cafe on Maple Street, around 10. James felt wary. Was this some kind of trap? A setup from Claire? "Why now, Emily? It's been 2 months since the divorce." "Because I can't—" She stopped, and he heard her take a steadying breath. "I can't be part of this anymore. You deserve to know the truth." Truth. The word hung between them, pregnant with possibilities. "James?" she prompted, when his silence stretched too long. He should refuse. Move on. Protect the fragile peace he'd constructed. "I'll be there," he said instead, surprising himself. "Thank you." Relief colored her voice. "And James, don't tell Claire about this, please." The call ended, leaving him staring at the phone, wondering what truths Emily Carson could possibly reveal that would matter now, and why they suddenly mattered to her. The Maple Street Cafe buzzed with mid-morning activity as James arrived 5 minutes early. He chose a corner table with a clear view of the entrance, the defensive positioning of a man unsure what to expect. Emily arrived precisely at 10, looking both determined and uncomfortable. She wore business casual attire, navy slacks and a cream blouse, as if trying to bring formality to an inherently messy situation. When their eyes met across the room, she gave a tight nod before approaching. "Thank you for coming," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "You didn't leave me much choice, with all that mystery." James pushed a coffee toward her. "I ordered for you, vanilla latte, right?" She looked surprised. "You remember? Claire's family gatherings. You always had the same thing." An uncomfortable silence settled between them. Emily wrapped her hands around the mug like it might anchor her. "This isn't easy for me," she finally said. "Claire's my sister. And that's exactly why I'm confused about why we're here." Emily stared into her coffee. "Because some things are more important than family loyalty, like doing what's right." She looked up, meeting his gaze directly. "I should have said something sooner, before the divorce. I kept hoping she would stop, that she'd come clean to you herself." James leaned forward. "Stop what, Emily?" "The lying." "The cheating." Her voice dropped to nearly a whisper. "All of it." James's heart pounded, his suspicion suddenly materializing into something concrete. You have proof because Claire convinced me and the judge that I was paranoid. Emily's expression hardened. She's good at that, making people doubt themselves. She reached for her purse. And yes, I have proof, more than you probably want to see. Show me, James said, his voice steadier than he felt. Emily glanced around the cafe before sliding to the booth beside James rather than across from him. She placed her phone on the table between them, her movements careful, deliberate. These are texts between Claire and Michael Donovan, she said, opening a series of screenshots. Her business associate. James scrolled through message after message, each more intimate than the last. Dates, times, hotel details, all during his marriage, many on nights Claire had claimed to be working late or traveling for business. His mouth went dry as he read Claire's words to her lover, declarations and promises she had once made to him. "How did you get these?" he managed to ask. She left her phone unlocked at Mom's during Easter. I saw a message preview that seemed off. Emily's face flushed with discomfort. I shouldn't have looked further, but once I saw one, I couldn't stop. James continued scrolling, his hands growing increasingly unsteady. This was going on for over a year. At least. Emily withdrew a manila envelope from her purse. There's more. Inside were credit card statements showing hotel charges in Chicago, restaurant bills for two, even jewelry purchases on dates that weren't his birthday or their anniversary. Most damning was a statement from a secret account he'd never known about. Money systematically moved from their joint account in small increments over many months. She was preparing, Emily said quietly. Setting aside funds for when she left. James stared at the papers, memories reorganizing themselves into a new, painful clarity. The late nights, the business trips, the gradual emotional withdrawal, the increasing criticism of him, making him believe he was the problem. Why? The question escaped before he could stop it. Why would she do all this instead of just leaving honestly? Emily's expression softened with genuine regret. The divorce settlement. She wanted everything on her terms. If she admitted to the affair, she let the implication hang unspoken. James felt a building pressure in his chest, like something long compressed was finally breaking free. There's one more thing, Emily said, pulling out more papers. This might be the most important for you now. James stood outside the cafe, manila envelope clutched against his chest like a shield. Traffic passed on Maple Street. Ordinary people living ordinary lives, while his had just been completely rewritten. "Are you okay to drive?" Emily asked, standing a respectful distance away. "Yeah." His voice sounded foreign to his own ears. "I just need a minute." The final documents Emily had shown him detailed how Claire had manipulated their finances before filing for divorce, presenting a distorted picture to the court, one that had influenced the custody arrangement for his children. "What are you going to do?" Emily asked. James took a deep breath of cool morning air. "I don't know yet." A strange calm was settling over him, the peculiar clarity that comes after long-awaited confirmation. "Why did you do this, Emily? She's your sister." "Because it wasn't right." She looked directly at him. "And because Lily and Max deserve better." James nodded, the envelope heavy with truth in his hands. "Thank you." "James?" She hesitated. "I'll testify if you need me to." Whatever happens next. As he walked to his car, James felt equal parts vindicated and wounded, his suspicions confirmed at last, but the betrayal no less painful for having been expected. Yet beneath it all stirred something unexpected, a fierce determination he hadn't felt in years. James spread the contents of Emily's manila envelope across his desk, arranging the papers in chronological order. The methodical organization helped contain the churning emotions threatening to overwhelm him. His laptop sat open nearby, its screen displaying his own bank statements for comparison. Text message printouts formed the left column of his impromptu timeline. The earliest dated back 18 months, around the time Claire had begun working late regularly. He traced the progression with his finger, marking how casual workplace messages had evolved into intimate exchanges, then explicit planning for rendezvous. The financial documents painted an equally damning picture in the right column. Claire had been siphoning funds in increments of $300 to $500, small enough not to trigger his notice amid their comfortable dual income, but substantial when accumulated. The secret account had amassed over $24,000 by the time she filed for divorce. Most disturbing was how the timeline revealed Claire's calculated approach. The affair had begun first, followed by financial preparations, and finally the careful character assassination. Subtle comments to friends about James's jealousy and controlling behavior months before she even mentioned divorce to him. She had built a narrative that positioned her as the victim, while methodically preparing her escape. By the time she'd filed for divorce, she'd already shaped the perceptions of their mutual friends, her family, and even, he realized with a spike of anger, the family court judge. The truth sat before him in black and white, irrefutable and sickening. James straightened the papers with mechanical precision, his shock giving way to something steadier. He'd spent months questioning himself, his perception, his worth, but this evidence provided something beyond vindication. It offered a path forward. He reached for his phone. This wasn't just about him anymore. The children's custody arrangement had been decided based on Claire's carefully crafted lies. Tomorrow, he would seek legal counsel. Adultery itself won't guarantee custody modification, attorney Patricia Winters explained, examining the evidence spread across her desk. The silver-haired lawyer's office projected competence, law degrees on the wall, neatly organized case files, and a view of downtown through floor-to-ceiling windows. But she lied about finances during the divorce proceedings, James countered. That has to count for something. It does. Winters nodded, setting aside the bank statements. Financial deception during discovery is serious. The court takes a dim view of hidden assets. She tapped the documents with a manicured nail. These transfers create a compelling pattern. So I can get the custody arrangement revisited. Potentially, but custody modifications require demonstrating significant change in circumstances affecting the children's welfare. She leaned forward. The affair and financial deception are relevant, but not sufficient on their own. The court prioritizes children's stability. James's optimism faltered. So despite everything, nothing changes? I didn't say that. Winters selected several documents. These text messages mentioning the children, they suggest Claire's boyfriend has been staying overnight during her parenting time. Yes, the kids have mentioned a Mr. Mike several times. That's helpful. Many custody agreements have morality clauses or restrictions on overnight guests. Has anything about the children's behavior or well-being changed recently? James hesitated. They seem more withdrawn after visits with Claire. My daughter mentioned having to keep secrets. Winters's expression sharpened. Document everything the children say about their mother's household. Changes in behavior, emotional state, any concerning statements. Don't prompt them, but listen carefully. This weekend is my visitation. Perfect timing. Meanwhile, I'll draft a petition based on the financial evidence. We'll create pressure points." She handed him her card with her cell number handwritten on the back. "Call me immediately if the children reveal anything concerning." James left with a fragile sense of hope, tempered by the knowledge that the real battle had only just begun. Saturday morning, James flipped pancakes while Lily, 7, set the table and Max, 5, arranged napkins with careful concentration. The kitchen radio played softly, creating a bubble of normalcy James desperately wanted to maintain. "Daddy, can we have extra syrup today?" Max asked, climbing onto his chair. "Special occasion?" James smiled, sliding perfectly browned pancakes onto their plates. "We don't get pancakes at Mommy's anymore." Lily smoothed her napkin. "Mr. Mike says they have too much sugar." James kept his expression neutral. "Is Mr. Mike there a lot?" "He lives with us now," Max said matter-of-factly, drowning his pancakes in syrup. "He has the big closet in Mommy's room." James's hand froze mid-pour. "Since when, buddy?" "After we moved to the new apartment," Lily supplied. "I don't like it there. It's too small, and my room doesn't have my star lamp." "Your star lamp?" James frowned. "The one we put in your room at Mommy's house?" Lily nodded, her expression clouding. "We moved again last week. Mommy said not to tell you because you'd get mad." "I'm not mad at you, sweetheart," James assured her quickly. "Mr. Mike yells a lot," Max added quietly, eyes on his plate. "Especially when he drinks the smelly juice." James's protective instinct surged, but he kept his tone casual. "Does that happen often?" "At night sometimes," Lily whispered. "We're supposed to stay in our room when he gets loud." "And Mommy?" Lily exchanged a glance with Max. "She cries in the bathroom, but that's a secret too." James swallowed hard, his pancakes forgotten. Claire had moved the children without notifying him, violation number 1. But what they were describing about this man went far beyond custody technicalities. He needed to call Patricia Winters. Today, James typed Michael Donovan into the search bar, adding Chicago to narrow the results. After returning the children to Claire, he couldn't shake Max's words about Mr. Mike and his smelly juice and yelling. He needed to know exactly who was living with his children. His first search revealed little: social media profiles set to private, a LinkedIn page showing a sales position at a medical equipment company. Nothing immediately concerning. His phone buzzed. "Emily. Did you know Claire moved again?" he texted. Her reply came quickly. "New apartment? Where?" "Don't know yet. The kids mentioned it. Also said this Michael guy lives with them now, getting loud when he drinks." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Finally, "I need to tell you something. Can I call?" The phone rang seconds later. James put it on speaker as he continued searching. "Claire dated Michael before you," Emily said without preamble. "It ended badly, really badly." "How badly?" James asked, typing Michael Donovan restraining order on instinct. "He has a temper. My parents forbade Claire from seeing him." The search results appeared. A court case from 7 years ago, domestic violence petition. "Emily, did he hurt her?" "She showed up at my apartment once with bruises. Claimed it was a one-time thing, that he was getting help." Emily's voice tightened. "I'm looking at public records now. There's another order of protection filed by someone named Stephanie Walsh 2 years ago." James's stomach clenched as he clicked the case number. The petition detailed multiple incidents: drunken rages, threats, property destruction. "Claire knows this history," Emily continued. "That's why she kept him away from the family, I can't believe she's living with him again, with the children there. James took a screenshot, then another. I'm calling my lawyer now. James, Emily's voice wavered, please hurry. A history of domestic violence is certainly concerning, Patricia Winters said, scanning the documents James had emailed. Her office was darker now, lit only by desk lamps against the evening sky. But unfortunately, it doesn't automatically trigger emergency intervention. He's living with my children, James said, pacing before her desk. A man with 2 different restraining orders for violence is in their home, and they've told me he's drinking and yelling. What more does the court need? Direct evidence of current danger to the children specifically, she explained, her tone sympathetic but firm. Past behavior toward romantic partners doesn't necessarily establish immediate danger to your children in the court's view. That's insane. I agree it's frustrating, but family courts move cautiously when considering emergency removals. She held up a document. The undisclosed move does violate your custody agreement. That's actionable, but through standard modification procedures. Standard procedures take weeks. My kids are scared now. I understand. Winters leaned forward. Look, I'll file an emergency petition first thing tomorrow, but I need to be honest, without specific evidence of danger directed at the children, the judge likely won't grant it. James gripped the back of a chair. So a man can have a documented history of violence, be drinking around my kids, scaring them, and the courts just wait until something happens? The system is designed to prevent impulsive removals, which has merit in many cases. But not this one, James interrupted. No, she acknowledged. Probably not this one. What are my options? Document everything meticulously. File police reports if Claire won't tell you their new address. That's required in your agreement. Contact Child Protective Services to request a wellness check. Winters checked her watch. We can start all those processes tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, James repeated, the word tasting bitter, while they spend another night with him. I'm sorry, James. These are the legal realities we're facing. James stood in the doorway of Lily's room, the weekend room he'd created in his house, painted lavender with glow-in-the-dark stars carefully arranged into accurate constellations on the ceiling. A small desk held her drawings. The bookshelf contained her favorite stories. Somewhere across town, his daughter slept in a strange new apartment, afraid to leave her room when Mr. Mike started yelling. He sank to the floor, back against the doorframe, and buried his face in his hands. The legal system, the very institution meant to protect children, had just told him to wait, document, file paperwork, follow procedure. What good was evidence if it couldn't be used when it mattered most? In the dim room, illuminated only by Lily's star-shaped nightlight, James felt a crushing weight of powerlessness. He'd done everything right. He'd respected the divorce decree, despite suspecting Claire's deception. He'd maintained stability for the children. He'd sought legal counsel immediately upon discovering the truth. And yet his children remained in potential danger tonight. What am I supposed to do? He whispered into the empty room, a question directed at no one and everyone. The system, God, himself. He glanced at the framed photo on Lily's nightstand. Both children laughing on a carousel last summer, their faces alight with joy and trust. They believed in him to keep them safe, to be their protector. Legal barriers or not, he couldn't fail them now. James stood slowly, something resolute hardening within him. The system might move at its own methodical pace, but he wouldn't wait passively while his children needed him. There had to be another way, and he would find it. You don't need a more cautious approach. You need someone willing to fight. Daniel Keating's office contrasted sharply with Patricia Winters's polished space. Where hers had featured mahogany and law books, his walls displayed children's artwork alongside legal certificates. A boxing glove signed by Muhammad Ali sat on a shelf behind his desk. James had made the call at 6 a.m., following a recommendation from another divorced father in his support group. By 8:30, he was seated across from Keating, who was already reviewing his case files. "Your previous counsel wasn't wrong about the legal challenges," Keating said, leaning forward. "But there are other approaches. Emergency ex parte hearings, temporary restraining orders on behalf of minors, Child Protective Services interventions with court backing." Winters said those wouldn't work without direct evidence of danger to the children. "Direct evidence comes in many forms." Keating tapped the file. "Children reporting fear of an adult with a documented history of violence. That's evidence. An unauthorized move violating court orders? More evidence. The pattern of deception your evidence shows. That creates context for everything else." James felt a spark of hope. "So you think we have a case?" "I think we have multiple angles of attack. No judge wants to be the one who ignored warning signs." Keating's expression hardened. "Let me be clear. This won't be easy. But the system has emergency provisions for exactly these situations. What's our first step?" "We prepare 2 filings simultaneously, an emergency ex parte hearing request and a standard modification petition. We document everything meticulously." Keating grabbed a legal pad. "But first, I need to know, is your sister-in-law willing to testify? Her evidence will be crucial." "She said she would, but it'll cost her. Her family will—" "Cut her off?" Keating nodded grimly. "That's the kind of courage courts notice. Let's give her a call." For the first time in days, James felt the weight lifting. Someone was finally listening. The coffee shop was 15 miles from Emily's neighborhood, far enough that family members wouldn't accidentally spot them. Emily sat across from James, her fingers tapping nervously against her cup. "Daniel Keating thinks we have a strong case," James began, "but he's clear that your testimony would be crucial. The texts, financial records, everything you provided." Emily nodded slowly. "I figured as much." "This is asking a lot, Emily. Your family will probably never speak to me again," she finished, her voice tight. "Mom's already suspicious about why I've been avoiding family dinners." James watched her internal struggle play across her face. "You don't have to do this, don't I?" She met his gaze directly. "What happens if I don't?" "The kids stay in that situation. Claire keeps lying. That man keeps drinking and yelling around them." She shook her head. "I've been thinking about this since you told me about Max's comments." "It won't just be written statements," James explained. "You'd likely have to appear in court, answer questions from Claire's attorney. They might try to discredit you. They'll say I'm jealous of Claire, that I've always resented her." Emily gave a humorless laugh. "Might even be partly true, but that's not why I'm doing this." "Why are you?" "Because some things matter more than family loyalty." She squared her shoulders. "I've spent my whole life keeping Claire's secrets, making excuses for her. Maybe, if someone had stood up to her sooner—" She trailed off. "I'll testify, whatever they need. The hearing could be as soon as tomorrow, if Keating can arrange it." "I'll be ready." Emily's phone buzzed, her mother calling. She silenced it. "Some doors close so others can open, right?" James reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Thank you isn't enough." "Then don't thank me," she said. "Just get those kids somewhere safe." James assembled the bunk beds with methodical precision, tightening each bolt with extra care. After returning from meeting Emily, he'd started preparing his home for what he hoped would be more than just weekend visits. The children's rooms had always been ready, but tonight he was making them permanent. He'd stopped at the store for Lily's favorite lavender-scented sheets and Max's requested dinosaur nightlight. Small touches to make the transition easier. As he worked, he felt a strength he hadn't accessed in years. The man who had accepted Claire's gaslighting, who had doubted his own perceptions, who had feared rocking the boat, that man was fading away. In his place stood someone willing to fight systems, challenge authorities, and face uncomfortable truths. He mounted a corkboard on Lily's wall, already imagining school artwork and achievement certificates displayed there. Not just weekend mementos, but the ongoing record of a life he would be fully present for. In the kitchen, he organized lunch containers and bought the groceries his children preferred. He created space in the entryway closet for everyday coats and backpacks, not just occasional overnight bags. Each preparation was both practical and symbolic, a declaration that his home would become their primary home, that he would no longer accept the scraps of parenthood Claire had allowed him. At midnight, he finished arranging framed photos of the children throughout the house. Then he sat at his kitchen table and signed the legal documents Keating had prepared: emergency custody petitions, affidavits, and witness statements. Tomorrow, these papers would be filed with the court. Tomorrow, he would stop asking permission to be the father his children needed. The victim was gone. The advocate had emerged. Family Court 3B gleamed with institutional sterility, polished wood barriers, fluorescent lighting, and the imposing bench where Judge Eleanor Winters would soon determine the children's fate. James sat beside Daniel Keating at the petitioner's table, his posture straight, but his hands clasped tightly beneath the surface. Across the aisle, Claire appeared with her attorney, Martin Prescott, a silver-haired man whose tailored suit and confident stride conveyed decades of courtroom victories. Claire herself looked impeccable in a conservative navy dress, her hair styled to project maternal competence. She didn't meet James's gaze. Emily slipped into the row behind James, drawing a sharp look from Claire. Their mother had apparently declined to attend. "All rise. The Honorable Judge Eleanor Winters presiding," the bailiff announced. Judge Winters, a woman in her 60s with shrewd eyes and reading glasses on a chain, took her seat and reviewed the documents before her. "We're here on an emergency ex parte petition for temporary modification of custody in the matter of Carson v. Carson," she stated. "Mr. Keating, as the petitioner's counsel, you may proceed." "Your Honor, we bring this matter with utmost urgency," Keating began, his voice steady. "New evidence has emerged indicating Mrs. Carson has created an unsafe living environment for the minor children." Prescott immediately rose. "Your Honor, these allegations are baseless and constitute an attempt to relitigate settled matters." "I'll determine what's baseless, Counselor," Judge Winters replied, her tone level. "Mr. Keating, you may continue." James watched Claire's confident expression falter slightly. The script she'd been following for months, where she controlled the narrative, was already deviating. "We have documentary evidence of Mrs. Carson's deliberate financial deception during divorce proceedings, violations of the parenting agreement, including an unauthorized change of residence, and most crucially, concerns about the children's current living arrangement with an individual who has multiple domestic violence restraining orders in his history." Judge Winters' gaze sharpened. "Proceed with your evidence." Emily's hands trembled slightly as she took the oath. From the witness stand, she could see both James and Claire, her brother-in-law watching with gratitude, her sister with cold fury. "Miss Carson," Keating began, "please explain how you came to possess the evidence you've provided to the court." "During a family gathering at our parents' home, Claire left her phone unlocked. I saw a notification preview that concerned me," Emily explained. "Given past patterns I'd observed in my sister's behavior, I felt compelled to look further." "And what did you discover?" "Text messages documenting a long-term extramarital affair, financial records showing she was secretly moving marital assets, and communications showing she was deliberately misleading James about her whereabouts during marriage." The judge examined the printouts as Emily identified each document. Claire's attorney scribbled notes furiously. "Mrs. Carson," Keating continued, "did you also provide information about Michael Donovan?" "Yes. I confirmed he was living with Claire and the children. I knew of his history with Claire from before her marriage to James." "Please elaborate on that history." "They had dated previously. It ended after an incident where he became violent while intoxicated. Claire came to my apartment with bruises." Emily's voice wavered. "Our parents insisted she end the relationship." Prescott rose sharply. "Objection. Hearsay and prejudicial." "Your Honor," Keating countered, "this goes directly to Mrs. Carson's judgment regarding her children's safety." "Overruled," Judge Winters stated. "Continue, Ms. Carson." "Claire knew about his violent history when she allowed him to move in with the children. When James told me what the children said about Mr. Donovan's drinking and yelling, I felt I had no choice but to come forward." On cross-examination, Prescott's tone turned cutting. "Isn't it true you've always resented your sister's success? That this evidence is simply revenge?" Emily's gaze never wavered. "No. This is about Lily and Max, not about Claire or me." From his seat, James saw Claire's composure crack, just slightly, as Emily's words landed. Judge Winters removed her reading glasses, her expression grave as she addressed the courtroom. The air felt charged after 2 hours of testimony and evidence. "I've reviewed the petitioner's evidence, including financial records, text messages, court records concerning Mr. Donovan, and testimony from both parties and witnesses," she stated. "I find sufficient cause for immediate concern regarding the minor children's current living situation." Claire shifted in her seat, her confidence visibly diminishing. "Mrs. Carson," Judge Winters continued, her tone firm but not unkind, "the evidence suggests you knowingly placed your children in a household with an individual who has a documented history of violence, particularly when alcohol is involved. Your children have reported concerning behavior to their father. This court's primary obligation is to their safety." "Your Honor," Prescott interjected, "my client assures the court that Mr. Donovan poses no threat." "Counselor, I'm not finished," the judge interrupted. "I am ordering an immediate emergency investigation by court-appointed child welfare specialists. Pending their report, I am granting temporary physical custody to the children's father." James exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. "This arrangement will remain in effect for 14 days, during which time the investigation will be completed. Mrs. Carson will have supervised visitation during this period." Judge Winters made several notations. "Mr. Carson, this is a temporary measure. The final determination will depend on the investigator's findings." "I understand, Your Honor," James replied. As the judge adjourned the hearing, Claire remained seated, her expression stunned. Across the aisle, Emily touched James's shoulder supportively. They would still need to wait for the final ruling, but for tonight, Lily and Max would be sleeping safely in their bunk beds. For now, that was enough. 2 weeks after the emergency hearing, James sat in the same courtroom, this time with more confidence but still with a flutter of anxiety. The court-appointed investigators had visited both homes, interviewed the children, and submitted their report. Now, Judge Winters would deliver her final ruling. Claire sat at the opposite table, looking less polished than before. Her attorney whispered something to her, but she barely acknowledged him. The temporary separation from her children had clearly affected her. "All rise," the bailiff announced, as Judge Winters entered. Everyone stood, then settled back into their seats. Judge Winters adjusted her glasses and addressed the court. "I've reviewed the investigator's report thoroughly. The children appear to be thriving in their father's care during this temporary period. They've expressed feeling safe and comfortable there." James breathed steadily, willing himself to remain composed. The investigation also confirms that Mrs. Carson did indeed relocate the children without proper notification, in violation of the custody agreement. Furthermore, Mr. Donovan's presence in the household presents a legitimate concern given his documented history. Claire stared straight ahead, her expression unreadable. It is the finding of this court that joint legal custody should continue, but primary physical custody will be modified. Mr. Carson will now have primary physical custody, with Mrs. Carson having visitation every other weekend and one weeknight dinner. Keating squeezed James's shoulder in silent congratulation. "Additionally," the judge continued, "I am ordering that Michael Donovan not be present during any of Mrs. Carson's parenting time until further notice. Mrs. Carson will need to complete a co-parenting class and provide documentation of separate living arrangements from Mr. Donovan before overnight visitations can resume." She signed the order and handed it to the clerk. "This arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months. I expect both parties to prioritize the children's well-being above all else." James nodded, emotion threatening to overcome his composure. The children would be safe. They would have stability. Justice had arrived, unexpected and complete. James gathered his papers in the hallway outside the courtroom, still processing the ruling. Keating had stepped away to take a call, leaving him momentarily alone when Claire approached. Her confident facade had crumbled, replaced by something he hadn't seen in years: vulnerability. "James," her voice was subdued, "do you have a minute?" He nodded cautiously, unsure what to expect. "I know you think I'm a monster," she began, then stopped herself. "No, that's not. I'm not here to make excuses." James waited, keeping his expression neutral. "I was wrong," she said finally, "about a lot of things. The affair, the money, Michael, all of it." The admission hung between them, so unexpected that James momentarily didn't know how to respond. "Oh, why now?" he asked finally. "Why admit it after fighting so hard?" Claire glanced toward the courtroom doors. "The investigator asked Lily why she didn't tell me about being scared of Michael. She said," her voice caught, "she said she thought I knew and didn't care." James felt a complex mixture of vindication and sorrow. "I convinced myself Michael had changed," Claire continued, "that his problems were in the past. But when I heard what the children told the investigator," she shook her head, "I've been selfish. I put what I wanted ahead of what they needed." "The ruling is fair," James said carefully. "I know." She met his eyes directly. "I won't fight it. I'm going to get my own place, take the parenting classes, do what I need to do to be better for them." James studied her face, searching for the manipulation he'd grown accustomed to, but found only exhaustion and regret. "They need both of us," he said finally. "Just healthy versions." "I know." Claire nodded, a hint of tears in her eyes. "I'll try to be that for them." As she walked away, James realized that sometimes victory came with unexpected complexities. The community park served as their designated exchange location, neutral territory with playground equipment nearby to ease transitions. James arrived 10 minutes early, watching Lily and Max explore the slide while they waited. 2 weeks had passed since the ruling. The children had settled into their new routine at his house, now their primary home. Today would be Claire's first visitation weekend. Her car pulled into the parking lot precisely on time. As agreed, no sign of Michael Donovan. James took a deep breath, reminding himself to focus on the children's needs, not the complicated history between their parents. "Mom's here," he called to the children, keeping his tone light. Lily ran to his side. "Will you pick us up on Sunday?" 3 o'clock, right here," he assured her, kneeling to her level. "Remember, you can call me any time." Max hung back slightly. "Is Mr. Mike going to be there?" "Nobody. Just Mom at her new apartment," James answered, having confirmed this with Claire's lawyer beforehand. Claire approached, carrying a tote bag of weekend necessities. She looked different. Simpler clothing, less makeup, a humility in her posture that hadn't been there before. "Hi, guys," she greeted the children, then nodded to James. "The new place is all set up. I have pictures of the rooms on my phone to show you." The children hugged James goodbye, then walked toward Claire with cautious excitement. "Sunday at 3, Claire confirmed as they turned to leave. "I've programmed your dad's number in the new house phone." As James watched them walk away, he felt neither triumph nor bitterness, just quiet hope that healing had begun, for all of them. Some truths needed to emerge before new foundations could be built. Fairy lights twinkled along the backyard fence as James flipped burgers on the grill. The evening air carried the scent of charcoal and the sound of children's laughter. This Friday night cookout, a new tradition in their household, marked 3 months since the custody change. "Dad, is it time yet?" Lily called from the patio table where she and Max were arranging homemade place cards. "Almost ready," James replied, sliding the spatula under a perfectly seared patty. He watched his children, their faces illuminated by the string lights he'd installed last weekend. The yard had transformed gradually. The swing set repaired, flower beds planted, a small vegetable garden that Max tended with surprising dedication. Each improvement represented not just a physical change, but a reclamation of their shared life. The past months hadn't been without challenges. Claire was keeping her promises, attending her parenting classes, maintaining her separate apartment, showing up consistently for her visitations. The children still returned from weekends with her, sometimes quiet, sometimes confused. Co-parenting remained a delicate balance of boundaries and grace. "This is the best burger night ever," Max declared as they gathered around the table, the simple meal elevated by their shared contentment. "What makes it the best one?" James asked, passing the ketchup. "Because we're not keeping secrets anymore," Lily answered with the straightforward wisdom of childhood. "Secrets make your tummy hurt." James nodded, struck by the truth in her observation. "You're right, sweetheart. Truth is always better, even when it's hard." Later, tucking them into bed, James reflected on the journey that had brought them here. He'd discovered strength he hadn't known he possessed, found allies in unexpected places, and learned that sometimes fighting for what matters requires both courage and patience. The house settled around him, no longer echoing with absence, but resonating with purpose. He understood now that healing wasn't a destination, but a continuing path, one marked by both struggles and moments of unexpected grace. Truth had indeed set them free, though freedom came with its own responsibilities. The light shining on hidden deceptions had ultimately illuminated a way forward, not perfect, but honest and hopeful. Some battles were worth fighting. Some wounds, when properly exposed, could finally heal. And sometimes the greatest victory wasn't in defeating an opponent, but in discovering your own capacity to stand firm when it truly mattered.